Love without limits. Once upon a time, there was a boy called James who one day went with his teacher and his classmates on an excursion to Weston National Park. That day, there was also other groups that were visiting that place. The teacher told them to be careful going down to see the lake because it is slippery. However, James was looking at the breathtaking scenery, so he didn't pay attention to what the teacher said, and suddenly he slipped and hit his head. All his friends laughed at him. Seeing that, a very nice boy from another class helped him up. Jim was very dizzy. The boy asked him, "You got hurt?" James said, "No, I just hit my head a little." The other boy said, "Luckily I brought some headache emergency pills." James said, "Thanks a million, you are my lifesaver. And what's your name?" The boy said, "My name is Min." James said, "You are from Korea, aren't you?" The boy said, "No, I am Chinese." James said, "Oh, I see. Okay, allow me to introduce myself. My name is James Miller, and I am 13 years old." Min said, "Do you mind if I call you Miller?" James said, "Absolutely not." The conversation continued through the excursion, and when it was over, they decided to keep in touch. And after a while, they became best friends. They did many things together. For example, they talked in the afternoons, they went out to play, they went out for walks on the weekends, and many other things. After 5 years, their friendship remained intact. They graduated from high school, and therefore they were planning what career to study.
First, they didn't know what to choose because they were looking for a career to study together. However, they didn't find any career that both liked. On the one hand, James had mathematical abilities, and on the other hand, might have talent in art. So, due to their different tastes and talents, they decided to study the career of their choice. James applied for engineering, and Min changed for her mind and applied to study social work. Days later, due to the heavy academic schedules that James and Min had at the university, they were strange. In that time, James realized that he had feelings for Min, and one day he told him. Min felt confused. He didn't want to realize what what he felt too because he was afraid of being judged by society. A few months later, a terrible earthquake occurred in the whole country, where unfortunately many cities were affected and therefore there were many deaths and many injured. James was one of them. James was rushed to the hospital where the doctors didn't have some blood, tests, and x-rays. Then the doctors told his family to they needed a brain surgery, which was almost impossible. And besides, there was a possibility that James couldn't survive. This situation was terrible. In addition, the hospital didn't have the adequate elements to carry out the surgery. A week later, James slipped into a coma. James' parents and Min were very distraught because they were afraid that James could get worse. Every day, Min felt more guilty for not having declared his love to his friend.
A few days later, Min did a research on the internet about the best hospitals in China, from which he found information about new discoveries of medicine in China and high-tech devices that were suitable for the operation that James needed. Therefore, Min immediately told James' family of this and decided to move him to China. Min decided to go with James' parents to China. James' parents accepted Min wouldn't go with them. However, they become suspicious of my mysterious attitudes toward James. When they arrived in China, James was intervened and the surgery was performed. Fortunately, everything went well. Min was always by James' side. He read him books, little thriller, science fiction, and romantics. Until James wake up after 2 long months. James woke up and saw Min next to him, and he was very happy about it. 6 months after a long rehabilitation, James made a full recovery. So when they decide to tell to their family about the feelings they have for each other. When James told his parents that she was loved with him, his parents told him, "We are an American natives and we can understand how you have fallen in love with a boy." They decide not to talk about it anymore because they consider it a taboo. And they thought the people wouldn't see them if they found out about their children's states.
At night, James left the house and went to a bar. When he got to the bar, the waiter said, "Good evening, mister. What do you want?" James said, "I need a cool beer to kill the sours." The waiter said, "Oh, mister, I'm afraid it may be difficult. It's after 10 p.m. and we're about to close." James said, "Sorry, I know it's last minute, but I need to think and vent." The waiter said, "Okay, give, give me a few minutes. I'll bring you your beer." James said, "Thank you." The waiter said, "Here you have your beer. And now, if you want, you can tell me what's wrong with you." James said, "Well, my family doesn't accept I'm in love with a man and not with a woman. They consider that being homosexual is a sin, and also they say that society is against this. They see homosexual people different from others. I'm really in love. I don't know how to make my family change their mind." The waiter said, "Honestly, I'm not against in a favor of the LGBT community. I'm only in favor of love. In my friend, you should think the same. You can confess the love you feel for that boy." James said, "I agree with you that one. Thanks for beer and your advice."
James and Min went to Hangzhou City, one of the most beautiful cities in China. There, James said to Min, "I'm a favor of love, and the love I feel for you is true and full of hope. So, do you want to be my boyfriend? I don't mean about my family or society. I only care about you. I love you." Min answered that yes. Sitting lonely in front of the beautiful lake, they kissed. The relationship between James and Min was not a problem to continue with their life plans, because after a few years they managed to graduate from the university and get good jobs. But James and Min felt that something was missing to take another step in relationship. So James proposed to Min. Min accepted the proposal without a moment's thought and said that if the life were eternal, I would want to live it with you. Min's mom was the one who made the wedding preparation checklist, like make a list attendance, pick a date, time and place, make a budget, and plan an agenda. A week later, they got married, and finally James' family accepted him as he is and also attend James and Min's wedding. After ceremony, the newlyweds went a honeymoon to France and land of love. Then, The two returned to the United States and lived happily ever after. Contributions. Karina Guanoliza, Gisela Machaquiza, Lisbeth Chadán, Valeria Guamanquispe, Erika Acosta. Thanks.